Hey everyone out there, I want to tell you how to plan a trip to Europe on a tight budget because, I understand budgets can be hard when it comes to traveling, but I'm going to show you exactly how you can plan a kick-ass trip to Europe on a very smart budget. And my tips, I think, will help you save a lot of money in the process, okay? So first of all, let's just get right into it. First of all, it's ideal to book your ticket at least a couple of months in advance or so. Take time to compare the fares before you book. I guess that kind of goes without saying, so that's why I'm making this my first tip. Definitely want to plan way ahead, okay? For accommodations, you can try alternative accommodations like B&Bs or apartments instead of a hotel. You can also try Airbnb. That's kind of getting really popular these days. I personally used it, and actually the experience I had was pretty good, so I would definitely recommend that. One thing you don't want to do is book a hotel very close to an attraction. Those tend to be very expensive. Pick a hotel that's actually near a metro station. That's going to be more useful for you. Something I always do. And also, that's going to minimize your taxi costs because, believe me, taxi fares can get you pretty much in the hole pretty fast over in Europe if you're not careful, okay? Also, within Europe, I do recommend traveling by train unless the journey is more than 6 hours, because who wants to spend time on a train that's more than 6 hours? All of Europe is actually very well connected by train, so it's pretty useful to go that way when it comes to transportation. To save money on trains, just like you did with the airplanes, book in advance. I'd say anywhere from 40 to 50 days will do you good, and you'll get excellent discounts when you do this in a lot of different countries, like Italy, Germany, France. They all will kind of really honor you if you do that and help you out there with their costs. One thing you don't want to do is buy a Eurail pass. It's very expensive, and also in many countries, a lot of people don't know this, particularly Spain, Italy, and France, you need to pay a surcharge on many of the trains, so it's kind of like, what's the point, Use the official train sites if you can, because in most countries where that's possible, you're going to find the best deals that way. And if you have to take a flight in Europe, you can try a low-cost airline like Ryanair. That tends to be a very, very good solution to flying around Europe. But remember, of course, they don't operate from the main airports, so you might have to take a taxi to get to the airport port that you need to go to. Ryanair charges money for checking baggage as well. They're kind of like an economy plane, kind of like Spirit, So, for example, if you have a Swiss knife in your backpack, you also have to things like check that in. So there's some hidden costs there. So, not the best option. But then again, I mean, do you really need to fly anywhere in Europe? I mean, just, use the trains. Or, if you have to fly, I would suggest Ryanair because they're the best out of the bunch. Moving on, I'd say almost all museums in Europe have about one free day to them. So try to utilize that. Try to plan your trip accordingly around that. And remember, of course, that the best parts of Europe are all very much free to see. The second best thing as far as cost, and this is kind of a personal experience, if you aren't an ardent art lover or historian, just limit your museum visits. Saves time and money. Because again, that's where you're going to be spending a lot of money. That's where a lot of people go when they're in Europe, is to the museums and stuff like that. So, if you're not really into that, you could definitely save a ton of money. If you're into nature, Europe is awesome that way because that's all free, and all you gotta do is just, hike around and see what you want to see. Some of the things I like to do is I do like to travel on night trains because it amounts to actually a lot less discomfort than you would think. It will save you on a night's accommodation as well. So instead of going on a train during the day, having to book a hotel at night, go travel on the train at night and you kill two birds with one stone there. Don't waste money also in queues like places like Rome, Vatican, Florence, Paris. Book all that stuff online because even though it costs you a little bit extra money, that's going to save you a ton of time. You don't want to be stuck in queues. They get pretty large over in Europe. Also, too, buy city cards, things like, the Paris Vista, the Rome Pass, the Salzburg card, etc., etc. It's worth it very much in some places and not so much in others, so you will want to do your research on that. Most city cards do give you free public transport in those cities, so that's the big advantage of using them. And many European cities will actually offer passes to the main attractions for a reasonable price in addition when you buy these cards. So, I mean, there's usually like a few options, for example, to choose from, depending, of course, on what you want to do. Museum passes, those in particular are really helpful as, of course, they help you skip the line to buy tickets, hence you avoid queues, hence you have more time to do what you want to do. In Europe, time is very valuable if you're only there for an extended period of time, so you definitely want to take advantage of that. And last but not least, I would say, go to the countryside in Europe. Like I was saying, the best parts of Europe are free. Countryside's beautiful, and I really think it's the number one attraction of going to Europe is the countryside. Don't miss the old towns in parts of the cities too. It can be quite an experience experience walking the narrow alleys, things like that. I mean, basically enjoy the culture that Europe has, cultivated for how many hundreds, if not thousands of years. You're gonna be able to see it all, and you want to do it on a budget. The way I just explained is probably the best way for you. Okay, so have fun on your trip. Hopefully these tips have helped you, and take care.